Hi, Jackie with Bead Adorn. In today's video, we are going to be covering bead embroidery stitches. There are three main ones that we'll be looking at and I'll be demonstrating. The good news is it's easy. We're going to start with the basic back stitch. It's called a back stitch because you go through some beads and then you go back through them a second time. I'm going to be using a size 12 needle. It has a relatively small eye, but that makes sure that you can go through the beads several times. Now I'm going to take my thread. This is KO thread, but remember you can use anything that's 100% nylon. And I'm going to do about a wingspan. Okay, I'm going to thread my needle in a single thread and tie a knot on one end and do a double knot so that it's not going to go through your fabric, pull through the fabric. You want it to stay on the back side. Now, while I use usually size 11 beads that are a little smaller, I'm going to use size 8 beads today simply because I think it'll be easier for you to see. So I have my needle, it's threaded, I have a knot at one end, and I come up through the bottom of my fabric backing. I'm going to pick up, make sure that your thread is through, there we go. I'm going to pick up 3 beads because I use a 3 bead back stitch. Now, in the beginning, you're probably going to have to just kind of put this down next to your fabric, just like this, so you know where to bring your needle down. You're going to go down next to the 3rd bead, and then you pull it, and sometimes you have to pull it a little bit like that, and you have the first step of your 3 bead back stitch. You come back down from underneath again. You're going to bring your needle back next to the 1st bead. And now you go through that again because you're going back. So we're going to continue now with the 3 bead back stitch by picking up the next 3 beads. Okay, you're going to go down where you think that 3rd bead should be coming, or you can put it down on the fabric like I did the first time, and you pull it through. Now, let's see what it looks like from the back. And a little tug back here will show you this is what it looks like from the back, and we have a nice straight bead line from the front. I'm going to do one more where I pick up my 3 beads. I'm going to go down. Now, you're going to wonder, how do I know where to come back up? Well, I put my finger like that, and I bring it up from the back, because you can't really see it from the back, but I just bring my finger up next to it. If I don't think it's the right place, I'll just put my needle through again. Now, one more interesting thing, since we're doing a straight line, is what happens if my line gets a little wonky or curved and I want it to be straight. Here's how you fix that. I'm going to go down through my last bead, and where I think it's getting a little up, see right here, it's not quite attached. I'm going to come back a bead or 2 before it from the back, pull it through, and then go through it another time so that the line is done better. Okay, what happens when you run out of thread or you want to move to a different spot? You're going to go down past your last bead to the back. Okay, let's turn this over. what you do is you simply pick up just a teeny little bit of fabric and do a double knot. 1, come back, 2, and then we're just going to cut. We're going to tie another knot and start in a different area. Now, I have tied my double knot to the back here, and I'm ready to start, and I'm going to demonstrate the difference between doing a straight line and a curved line. So I'm going to start here, and the idea is to simply follow the line. So I'm going to pick up my 3 beads, and since I'm not going in a straight line, I'm doing a curved line. So I'm simply picking up 3 beads, going back down, coming back up to complete my back stitch. Little tug, and we continue. And I'm going to pick up 3 more beads so you can kind of see the curve better. And there you go. When you're making a design and the line is zigzag or pointed in this way, you don't do a continuous line, but like I did here, I did a couple of lines of my straight stitching, and instead of continuing it, I stop, I go down through the bottom, come back up next to the stitch in where I'm going to want my next line to be, which is right next to it, and then I pick up my 3 beads and I go down the opposite way. And then you have a nice point like that. Now, what happens if you have a line and you run out of room? Do you always have to do the 3 bead stitch? Not really. You can add on just 1 or 2 beads if you wanted to. I usually use 3 beads as often as possible because I get a feel for the distance of the beads and then coming up and back through them. Before we move on to the next stitch, I wanted to show you 2 examples of bead paintings where I used the stitches I just demonstrated for you. In this one, there's lots of curved lines. This is a folk art design that I did. Doing the leaves, I used the same technique as I would for the zigzag because it comes to a point, and then there are plenty of straight lines as well. In this example, I'm using a stained glass design. Here you have lots of straight lines, you have curved lines, and you have angles. The next stitch that I'm going to demonstrate is the anchor stitch, also called the stop stitch. And it's very easy to do, and it involves a larger bead and a smaller bead. In this example, here's different anchor stitches, and you can see different sized beads can be used. Let me show you how it's done. I have my single thread double knotted in the back, and I brought the thread up from the back side. I'm going to add my larger bead first and thread it through, and then I'm going to put my smaller bead. Now, the trick is to not go through the smaller bead, but go around it. So I'm going to go around it and then back to the back, and I'm going to pull it and show you what it looks like. And there you are. That's a stop stitch. Let me show you again with a smaller bead. I'm going to use 2 smaller beads for you. So I'm going to, again, come up from the back, put the larger of the 2 on. This is a size 6/0 bead, and this is a size 11 bead. And again, Instead of going through the bead, I'm going to go around it. And then through the bottom bead to the back, pull it. You may wonder when you're going to use these anchor stitches. They're used for embellishment and to add dimension. In this example of my fancy bird, I added anchor stitches here and even smaller ones here, which just added an additional dimension and interest in the design. In this mandala design, what I did is added an anchor stitch here, and you can see here larger, smaller, to add again interest and dimension. So the last stitch that we're going to look at today is the edge finishing stitch. And you use that mainly in jewelry. Why? Because you don't want the stitching to show, and so you need to put some kind of a backing on it. The backings that I use most often are ultra suede or felt, because they actually make it more comfortable to wear. Once the backing is glued down, you now have 2 layers and you're ready to finish the edges to make it look more complete and comfortable and professional. Here's the cuff fully embroidered, but you can see that the edges look unfinished. In fact, you can even see some of the backing showing through. Take a look at this next picture and you'll see what I'm talking about. So let me show you what it looks like on the edging. I've used yellow crystal beads, and there you can see the difference between when it's not edged and when it's edged. Here's another cuff that's been fully finished on the edges. So let's take a look at it. Here's the edges, and this is what it looks like from the back. Nice and complete and professional. So this is how we get started. I have my needle that's threaded with a single thread. I tied a double knot in the back, and this is how we're going to start. For this stitch, I'm going to use 1 bead at a time. So I pick up a bead, I go from the back to the front, going through all of the layers, like so. With the bead on, I pull the thread and up pops the bead. I keep my finger like this, and I'm going to go through the bead from its bottom to its top. And there you go. Okay, let me do a few more stitches. I picked up my bead. I'm pulling my thread through. It's standing right there waiting for me. I go from the bottom to the top. I pick up another bead right next to it. I go through from the back to the front. There's my bead waiting for me, and I go through again. So we've covered the 3 basic bead embroidery stitches today. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and if you did, please click like and share. In the next video, I will be doing a tutorial on a simple bead embroidered cuff.